Let's call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag. States of God, justice for all. Good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. I notice a couple of familiar faces. I would just like to mention that the solar subject is not on the agenda tonight. There has not been any action taken, and there will not be any action taken this evening. So if that affects your presence, that's fine. If not, thank you for coming. Okay. We start this evening with 3 public hearings. First of which is the fire district sign. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So basically, this is a public hearing on the fire district sign. I have to admit that the fire department has been very patient and very persistent in pursuing this. We had to go through a code change, which in itself is a lengthy process. Then they applied also for a variance, which is another process. And now this is the final step, getting a special exception from this board. Other than that, would anyone wish to speak on that topic? Okay, looks like no one wishes to speak. I need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The second public hearing is a local law piercing the 2% tax cap. This is a procedural matter for our budgetary process. It's required by the state if we anticipate at all that we are going to pierce the 2% tax cap. So I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would anyone wish to address the concept of our piercing the 2% tax cap? Okay, no one wishes to speak, so I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one is the budget hearing for a 25-26 budget. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I just have a brief remark here at the beginning. The village board and I are pleased to present the budget for the upcoming 25-26 fiscal year. The enclosed budget is the coordinated effort of the Board of Trustees and the department heads to maintain the highest level of affordable municipal services. We continue our commitment to balance fiscal responsibility while meeting our residents' priorities of public safety, essential services, sound infrastructure, and enriching community events. Effective budgeting relies on 2 key tools: effective financial trend analysis and reliable revenue forecasting. The village has traditionally taken a conservative approach to both tools. However, preparing the 25-26 budget presents some of the most significant challenges faced by the village in recent years. The tentative budget addresses those challenges of accelerating inflation, the rising cost of hospitalization benefits, New York State retirement contributions, the costs affiliated with infrastructure and equipment, while maintaining the village's conservative budgeting practices and protecting the strong financial position the village has held for the past several years. We've continued to maintain an excellent bond rating with Moody's at AA1 and Standard & Poor's at AAA, and the classification scoring by the New York State Comptroller of no fiscal stress was at 3.3 out of 100. At the end of each fiscal year, we continue to contribute to the fund balance, which offsets the shortfalls in this budgeting process and keeps the tax increase to a minimum. The future of West Hampton Beach is dependent on the efforts provided by its staff. Without their focus and ability to provide exceptional services and the oversight of the annual budget, this village would not be where it is today. It remains my honor to work side by side with the trustees and the village employees to preserve our village's commitment to excellence and an even more prosperous future. With that being said, does anyone have any comments or questions on the budget, on the proposed budget?
And Mayor, in the meantime, I don't want to disrupt you, Joan. Just want to say that this is a very difficult, well, I figured with the cane, you might take a minute to get up there, but,
This is your musical accompaniment to walking up to the
Yeah.
podium, so.
um,
Oh,
you can do
so,
that.
We don't have.
Thanks, Joan. I just want to say, this is a very difficult, situation that we're in. We do have, and over 10 years in this office, I've been complimented so many times on our staff. We have some of the best staff to the point where people say, I can't even believe how helpful they are. And they need to be taken care of, and it's our responsibility to do it. And it's a difficult position to be in with having to pierce this, but
Yes, it's a balancing act.
and we need to keep things, up to snuff. And it's not easy, but I just want to compliment our staff that are just, great at serving the public, and people come in with a smile and they leave with a smile.
Okay, Joan.
Just have two budget items. Pardon the leak. This is the highest, budgeted legal, amount of legal fees we've had in many, many years.
We've, in-
$205,000 for the upcoming budget. The budget for this past year was 200,000. We didn't spend it all yet. But now it's upping it to 205. Why are these legal fees so high?
we have had a couple of Article 75s.
78,
And, go ahead.
Article 78.
No, 78, sorry.
75 is arbitration.
Okay, article, wrong number. And we do anticipate some other legal activity. So, that's the reasoning behind it. And I do recall back in the heyday where we were in a lot of legal issues. When I first got elected, the budget was around 300 to 350 for legal. So, over the years, it has fluctuated with the situation. No, was, 2000 and, had to be, 2000. Oh, no, I'm talking years ago, back 2014, 15. It was up around 250 to 300,000. No. Well, we're anticipating expenses is what we're doing.
Stephen, so far this year, you have nothing spent on litigation or small claims, just on personnel. And that line is just about what you budgeted for, and you're continuing that. So the other 150,000 is litigation and small claims. $150,000.
It's a definite possibility, yes. Yes.
To budget it than not have it. Better off to budget it, and not have it. We don't use it, but just it, go back into it.
That's your choice.
Hey, we're trying to cover our butt, you know?
A budget of $380,000, which is gigantic. You've already spent 209. Compensated absences, what is that?
Those are, actually, one of the reasons for that increase is that within the contracts of the staff, we have made it their ability to buy back vacation time and to buy back, some of their compensated time, made more available to them to reduce the cost of overtime. So we're trying to balance, we're trying to make people work more voluntarily by buying back their vacation time. That's what it is to me.
So that's never been done in the past?
That has been a recent change in the contract, so we anticipate that will be taken advantage of.
To the tune of $380,000.
Yes,
Last year it was 92,000 and the budget was against a budget of 60,000. And so far this year, they've taken advantage of 209,000. How do you come up with the 380,000? Just curious. Arithmetic wise.
just
Did you look at each employee, how many they, what they can come up with?
it's how many days, how many employees we have, how many days they get vacation time, and they do have a maximum that they can cash out. So we calculated the maximum for each, for those employees.
So bottom line is that amount is correct.
If everybody, if all the
everybody does it.
employees that, opt to cash in as much as they can, then we have that budgeted.
At the work session, you had a choice of 6% and 9%.
Correct.
On your, tax cap,
Yes.
and you chose the 9%.
The consensus at the work session,
The three
Was-
trustees.
yes, was that it would be better to, protect our reserve account rather than spend our reserve account to reduce the tax rate to the 6%. That was the consensus of the trustees, so that's the direction we're taking.
This is something I'm not really upset about. What is that Polaris vehicle for the beach?
That's
what is
the,
it?
four-wheel drive vehicle. We have a Gator that we've had for several years. That's a Gator. It's a John Deere, it's a four-wheel drive tractor that goes on the beach to assist lifeguards with getting, people off the beach in an emergency situation and for transferring equipment and for transferring also, they use it for going from Rogers to Lashley or back and forth if there's a need for personnel.
Is it to take a disabled person? off?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. As a stretcher, yes, yes. Yeah, the thing that prompted that was.
That-
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, I'm glad, 1 out of 3. All right, thank you, Jim.
But I
Well,
wanted to
feel
put
better.
my leg up. Before I had surgery.
Would anyone else like to speak on the budget? The weapons fire district? That one's been closed, Lou, I'm sorry, but it's, okay. We have a resolution on for tonight.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right,
Thanks, Lou.
And anyone else wish to speak on the budget? Okay, so we need a motion to close that.
Motion to close.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. That means we move on to the resolutions. So,
Resolved that the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of March sixth, 2025 and March 13th, 2025 are hereby accepted.
Second,
all in favor? Aye.
resolve that the police department's building inspectors and treasurers' March 2025 reports and January, February, and March 2025 Justice Court reports are hereby accepted.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
resolved that the warrants of March 2025 in the amount of $344,927.03 for the general fund, $15,780.63 for the capital fund are hereby approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the village clerk treasurer is hereby directed to post and publish a public notice, public hearing to be held on Thursday, May 1st, 2025 at 5 p.m. at the Village Hall for a building department fees schedule increase.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Mayor Urban to sign a contract with Fluid Imagery to upgrade the village's phone system.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye. resolve that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the retirement of Kerry Rogozinski effective March 14th, 2025.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. Yes.
It's been
We had a
amazing.
retirement party before, and this is, this resolution is coming late, so, it should have been done earlier.
She was amazing.
Yes, did a great job.
resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby ratifies the termination of Alexander Glasser effective March 21st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved to amend the August 1st, 2024 resolution to the following. William Donahue is hereby authorized to graciously donate and place a veteran memorial in the Military Appreciation Park honoring Ham Anden at the Village Marina to be 3 feet wide by 3 feet above grade and 16 inches deep, gray stone with inscripted of the quotes from the Man of the Arena speech for Roosevelt dedicated to all veterans and being unveiled at August 15th, 2025, the anniversary of WW2 signing of the armistice.
Armistice.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is at our military park,
Yes,
just to be clear.
yes. It's in the, no stones are being, there was a misunderstanding, I think, at one point, Brian, that some stones were gonna be removed and replaced. That's not the case. This is an additional stone with just the Man in the Arena. And we did have a meeting with, Bill Hughes and spoke about this, and that's why it's saying all veterans. It's not just World War II, it's Vietnam, it's, Korean, it's World War II, it's all veterans. But it will be dedicated at the, World War II armistice signing, anniversary.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I've gotten some feedback on this, that there's some pushback and concern about doing anything at the military park. Have any other trustees?
I
had
agree,
this?
I agree. I've got pushback on it too. And to me personally, I thought it was supposed to be moved to the marina behind by Starbucks was back there, but it was chairs is where I understood it was supposed to be. So
Yeah,
I'm not in favor of it, okay?
Yeah, I'm not sure why it came back to the military park, but the concerns that I heard about it were that we have this military park and it was designed and completed, and that this would be, in addition to it and
Yes.
and a disruption to it.
Well, it's the same matching, that's why the gray stone now, and that's why the scaled down stone now.
Mhm.
is to match the existing stones. So it's nothing, the previous resolution, if you recall, had black polished
Yeah,
stones,
yeah.
and there were two of them, and they were designed originally to be larger to accommodate a large number of names.
Right.
And that we, as you mentioned, we got some feedback from that.
Yeah,
So
and that-
we've talked about it, but if you,
And that was, largely, the feedback of like Bill Hughes and VFW about the vetting and the names
right,
and then, but we had this other, um, group of people that had pushed back about changing anything at all about Military Park. And, I was listening to their concerns and also about, if we do something like this, what does it mean in the future when someone else wants to do something there?
well, I've said all along that this board, I don't think any board can obligate a future board to do anything.
Sure.
Sure. So that's to be determined in the future, I would say. All we are agreeing to at this point with this resolution in my mind is this one stone that matches the other stones to be dedicated at the anniversary, the 80th anniversary of the armistice signing, dedicated to all veterans, not just World War II, but Korea, Vietnam, as was discussed with Bill Hughes.
Yeah.
And when it comes time to have names displayed, Bill Hughes mentioned the banner program of Southampton Town. I've spoken to him, and as a separate kind of a side thing, we're looking into being a satellite display place for the banner program. So
Yep.
that's a program where
I love that program.
that program is terrific. I
Yeah.
think it's a banner that's up from Veterans Day to Memorial Day to Veterans
Better,
Day.
yeah.
And then the banner is removed and given back to the family.
Yeah, I love
So
that program.
That's a great program.
Um,
That's another step beyond this in my mind, so.
So basically, with this particular project, the resistance I've gotten from some people, especially related to the families that were part of the original military park, where they, feel like this is adding something else to their park, completed park, like it was a project built,
Oh.
designed, completed. There's concern about adding that regardless of what it is and what the stone is and how it matches, and disruption to that, and then future potential of further building and disruption.
Yeah. I would say originally in my mind, I like the idea of having the ability to recognize World War II vets and Korean vets and Vietnam vets and just have a few surrounding stones recognizing all those different veterans um, in order of occurrence around the circle.
And-
That met with resistance, as you said.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why this got scaled back like this.
Yeah.
So if this is one stone recognizing all veterans, that's whatever.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, I
is a
think-
generous donation. I hate to miss the opportunity for recognizing the 80th anniversary of the armistice, but we can,
Yeah,
Whatever
and
you
I
wanna do.
appreciate your perspective on this. I
Okay.
really do. I've just listened to feedback
Okay.
about it, and some of the feedback has been, is there any other way or any other place that we can do this?
well, we did discuss that as well, if you recall, and had emails back and forth. And we didn't want to end up with a military appreciation park at the marina and then a World War II park someplace at the canal,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Rob mentioned,
Mhm.
and then another Veterans Memorial someplace else in the
Right.
village, like Mortimer Park was brought up
Yep.
as another venue. So these discussions have gone round and round.
You know,
So
well, I'm not necessarily in favor of doing this. I think it's a great idea. Intentions are all good. I mean, this is not,
Yes, I think Mr. Donahue is very well intentioned.
of course. I
for
mean,
the
he's,
donation, so,
he's, you know,
Right.
working hard on a good thing.
right.
I just, having been so, involved in,
You want to have more time to vet this with these other concerned people, do you think?
sure, I mean, I don't know how the other trustees feel.
I agree. I
Like,
think
I
we need
don't-
a little more time to figure out,
Think maybe we
what
table it for now?
appropriate.
Sure, we can.
Let's table it and let's
Wanna
Table it,
we
put
visit
some more
it.
time on it. Yeah, I agree.
Sure, okay.
Cool, thanks.
So we can table this resolution for another time.
Thanks.
Forgot who read that one.
No, I'm not.
That was Rob, so
Rob,
I'm up.
oh, you're up.
Oh,
Okay.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the purchase of a 20 horsepower outboard engine for DPW boat in the amount of $3,435.96 to be paid out of A5110.2 equipment.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
resolved with an O, that the Board of Trustees approves the purchase of a 2025 Polaris Ranger XP for Rogers Beach for $21,999, paid out of account A7310.2 equipment.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorize renewal of 2025 outdoor tables, chairs, benches, music, and display permits. Whereas the village has received applications to renew the outdoor tables, chairs, benches, and music and displays for 2025, and whereas after considering information supplied by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, the Suffolk County Sewer Agency, and the village building administrator, the Board of Trustees determined special exemption permits should be issued for outdoor seating and tables and music and displays, where there are incidents or reports filed with the police department or changes concerning said uses. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the placement and use of outdoor seating, tables, and outdoor music and displays as shown on the submitted plans for the attached listed establishments, subject to all revised conditions and plans on file.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the following organizations or groups to use village property on the dates and times authorized. Times Review Media, Taste of the West Hampton Beach, Great Lawn, Saturday, June 14th, 2025, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The Chamber of Commerce Bocce League, Maria Z. Moore Park, Monday, May 1st, 2025 through November 1st, 2025, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Chamber of Commerce Farmers Market, the Village Green, Saturday, May 3rd, 2025 through November 22nd, 2025, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and up to 5 vendors outdoors at St. Mark's Church, November through May. Chamber of Commerce Spring Sidewalk Sale, Main Street, Glover's Lane, Montybug Lane, Sunset Avenue, Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, and Sunday, May 4th, 2025, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Chamber of Commerce Spring Fling Festival on Main Street, Glover's Lane, Maria Z. Park, and Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, with the rain date of Sunday, May 4th, 2025, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Chamber of Commerce Maggie Burbank Art Craft Show, Saturday, May 24th, 2025, and Sunday, May 25th, 2025, the Great Lawn from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
You want to just read
We
that
can-
last part?
All authorizations are approved pending receipt and complete application, all fees, insurance requirements, and site plans.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve entering into an agreement with DCJS for fingerprint searches and establishing an escrow account of $1,700 to be paid out of A3120.411 investigations.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. whereas by special exception permit application dated October 29th, 2024, the West Hampton Beach Fire District, the applicant, requested a special exception permit from the Board of Trustees pursuant to Section 197-30C 8.1B for an internally illuminated emergency services facility sign at the applicant's property located at 92 Sunset Avenue, West Hampton Beach, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 905-012-04-006.02. And whereas the special exception permit application was subject to the requirements of Article 8 of the Code, and whereas Section 197-77 of Article 8 of the Code requires that the Board of Trustees refer to the Planning Board for its recommendations, and whereas the Planning Board considered the application at its February 27th, 2025 meeting and determined the following. The Board has no objection to the application with the condition that the sign does not exceed the allowable square footage and height and complies with the Village Code 197-30C 8.1 to G, and whereas the application complies with Code Section 197-30C 8.1 to G, and whereas the application is a Type 2 action under the State of Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, pursuant to NYCRR Section 617.5C9, and whereas a public hearing on the application was held before the Board of Trustees on April 3rd, 2025, and whereas the Board of Trustees considered the matters set forth in Section 197-80 of Article 8 of the Code. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for a special exception permit to install and construct an internally illuminated emergency facility sign at applicant's property located at 92 Sunset Avenue, West Hampton Beach, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 905-012-04-006.02 is hereby approved subject to the following conditions. The illuminated portion of the sign shall be no greater than 96 inches in width and 48 inches in height. The total height of the structure shall be set back 10 feet from the property line, and it is further resolved that in accordance with Section 197-79 of Article 8 of the Code, the Board of Trustees determines that the special exception use will not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of the adjacent properties or of properties in the surrounding area or impair the value thereof. That the special exception use will not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of permitted or legally established uses in the district wherein the proposed special exception use is to be located. That the safety, health, welfare, comfort, convenience, or the order of the village will not be adversely affected by the proposed special exception use and its location. That the special exception will preserve and protect the environment and will be in harmony with and promote the general purposes and intent of this chapter.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has adopted the proposed local law as attached to the override, the 2% tax cap as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas the village clerk treasurer has presented to the Board of Trustees a tentative budget in compliance with the requirements of Section 5-5081 Village Land Law, and whereas the trustees have had a chance to review and held a public work session March 26, 2025 on said budget and conducted a public hearing on the tentative budget in accordance with Section 5-5081 on April 3rd, 2025, and therefore be it resolved that without further changes, alterations, or additions, the Board of Trustees hereby adopt 2025-2026 fiscal year tentative budget in its current form as adopted budget.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that Daniela Brown is hereby appointed to the position of building permits examiner at a semi-monthly salary of $2,500 effective April 16th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
want to add in that I've known Daniela since high school, and I think she's gonna be a phenomenal addition to the village.
Yes. Thank you. Agree. Okay, that brings us to the public comment section of our agenda. Would anyone wish to speak?
Good evening, Mayor Urban, Village Board members. My name is Kara Back. I reside at Jennifer's Path in Quiag. I am here tonight to address the board's lack of action following the March 6th public hearing to consider the ratification of the existing lease agreement with CVE to construct an industrial solar facility, including a battery energy storage system on village property located at 172 South Country Road, Quiag. A month has passed, and yet there is no resolution on tonight's agenda. This delay is concerning, as it leaves the public in the dark about the board's intentions and the reasoning behind the inaction. The purpose of a public hearing is to gather input from the public before the board makes an informed decision. The board's choice to hold a public hearing only after the lease was signed suggests that the decision was predetermined. And by doing so, you have undermined the integrity of the public process. At the March 6th public hearing, I specifically warned this board that fire was a real risk to this project and that the woods is just simply not a good place to put an industrial solar project and BESS facility. Just 2 days later, our community experienced the worst brush fire since 1995. A fire that spread for miles and was difficult and dangerous for our volunteers to contain, many who are here tonight. This event only reinforced the dangers and concerns about this project. Yet, despite this clear risk, you are still stalling on a decision. As I told you at the public hearing, in all likelihood, not a single one of your constituents, not one village resident, will benefit from this project. The power generated will go directly into the grid, and low-income households elsewhere will receive priority access to the 10% reduction on their monthly electricity bill. Meanwhile, it is your community that faces the environmental, fire, and safety risks. If you do a risk-benefit analysis, it should not be a difficult decision for this board. The safety, welfare, needs, and interests of the residents of the community should come first, not the interests of the developer. Given these facts, I would like to ask the board, and I would like you to clearly address, why hasn't a resolution been put forward for a vote tonight?
I'm going to interrupt here and advise the board that since there's pending litigation in which you're a party and an attorney, that we have advised them as their attorneys not to make any public comments concerning this particular issue. So you will not get an answer to your question.
What specific obstacles are preventing the board from taking an action? Is there,
But we have no comment and.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to continue to ask my
you can
questions,
ask the
though.
questions, but they're
Absolutely.
rhetorical as far
Yep.
as I'm concerned.
Is there a legal reason for the delay, or is this a discretionary holdup? What steps has the board taken since the public hearing to move this forward? And when can the public expect this matter to be addressed? If additional deliberations are needed, the public deserves to know why and for how much longer. The community is watching. We are here tonight. And we expect the board to act in the best interests of the people that live here. I urge you to provide a firm timeline for when this decision will be made and commit to including it on the agenda for your next meeting. Your budget seems to indicate that you are concerned about legal fees. Know that this case will be moving forward. Our next steps will be to proceed with deposition and discovery and a trial in June. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Myla Massey. I live at 3 Jennifer's Path in Quiog. And I just wanted to make everyone aware, if they hadn't seen it, there was a 60-minute segment last Sunday regarding lithium batteries on electric cars in the Los Angeles fires and what it takes and how toxic the chemicals are. And it has to be done right to not contaminate the ground or the air. And that's for one car. Can you imagine a BESS battery installation right behind our houses if it caught on fire 100 feet from our property? What it would take to contain that fire, to contain the toxins, to do it correctly with all the toxins and the chemicals that would be exposed to the air and the ground. It's a nightmare. I just want you to consider that if you haven't made up your mind yet. And if you haven't watched that segment, take a look at it. For one car, how much it took just to get the toxins out of the area so that people would be safe to go back to their homes.
Mayor, members of the board, council. My name is John Lynch. I'm attorney with Lynch and Back. We have an office right here in West Hampton Beach. And we are the attorneys who are representing the petitioners, many of them here, bringing the lawsuit against the village in connection with the lease that's been placed on 172 Old South Country Road on that. I'm only asking is that, as I asked last time, is that each of you members of the board, please just take a look and read the lease and make your own decision. You think it is the best thing for the village to be doing on it. I think when you have to weigh it out, particularly after there's the fires, right after that, I think that would put a pin in it that this is a dangerous thing to be doing, but there's no real benefit, overall benefit to the village. It's small based on the injury that could be caused to members of the community, even though we're pointed out we're not taxpayers or outside the village boundaries. A lot of us all work here and shop here, and our kids go to school here. We consider ourselves part of the community, and I would like that to be taken into consideration. But please read the lease. I know you're all smart guys and girls, on this, because to be here, and I appreciate all the work the village has done. I think you've done a great job through COVID and everything. It's amazing what you guys have done. I think you're a good board. But this was a mistake, and I don't think there was evil intention. I think we make mistakes. We're all human. And I think when we read it, and maybe sometimes good intentions are paved to the road to hell. Is that the quote? I might be getting it wrong. But I think each of you read the lease, take a look at it, and then ask the council questions, as to what they mean. And balance it out with CVE is a company, but they've also maneuvered themselves where it's been assigned to an LLC that has no other assets but this lease. And if anything goes wrong, when you're going to look them, I'm sure they sheltered themselves somewhere. And you probably see who with these members of the LLC. I know when I'm doing these things, I create holding companies, other LLCs. It's walls to get to them if anything goes wrong. And the village is still the owner of the property. If you sold the property to them, then you can say, okay, we're not responsible. But when you're the owner of the property, if anything happens, if there's going to be a fire that comes from the village is going to get sued. The amount of insurance, and I don't even know what the insurance issues are for the village, in connection with having this there. So I think you have to read the lease, take a look at it, make a decision that you think is best for the village. I mean, maybe none of us are all members of the village. We don't want this lease to go there because of our reasons, because it's going to be right next to our homes. We feel it's a danger, onto it, but also has an economic impact on our properties. And I don't think when you balance what the benefit could be to the village from the rents that it might be received from this company, as opposed to the detriment to us, I think you have to balance that out. But even if you look at the lease, and there's going to be portions there, and your council can explain them to you about mortgages, like CVE is not going to have their own money into this. They're financing the entire thing in there. And then there's a whole steps in there that when the bank takes over, if they don't make their mortgage payments, and the only asset they have is the CVE, the bank takes over and can assign it. on that. And there's other, and the village has to allow that to happen. It's in the lease on that. So take a look at it. Some of it's a little complicated, you know, some of it could be, there was points in there were missed in the lease, and I could see how they could be missed, but these leases that these solar companies have are kind of a standard kind of lease that they've been doing. Unfortunately, I had to study all these different things and how they do it and stuff. And these kind of fall into it, and they put language in there that sometimes is difficult to understand, especially with regard to BES. They don't say the word BES on that, but they mean it. And these things aren't profitable for them unless they have a BES, particularly the size on that. I think Brian knows that because he's into this company, so he might know the value of that. They, you know, they want that BES in there on it. So just take a look at that, and hopefully, you know, you'll make a decision you think is best for the village. We hope that you don't ratify the lease, and then we'll deal with it from there. We don't want to be doing this litigation. We don't want the village to have to spend more money on litigation if we can avoid it, but we have no choice, you know, on that. This is our family. I'm sorry, I get a little emotional because I apologize for that. But this is our family, friends, and neighbors on that. And I think we're gonna have to fight. We're not gonna go away. And if we lose here, we'll appeal. And if we lose with the town, we'll do that. I guess this will be my retirement, my career, going through fighting this. But I will, if I have to. I don't want to. Thank you.
Ellen Worth, 4 Jennifer's Path. I'm confused. You have been told that this is not a healthy situation. The town of Southampton, I thought, said that they do not approve of a battery storage in that location. In addition to that, different properties are being tiered, and certain things can go next to tiered and certain things cannot. And this cannot go next to, I think, a residential is a tier 1. So why are we still talking about this? This is an error on your part, and you need to fix it, which means void the lease. The fire, West Hampton Beach, recently speaks very loudly, if not Liberty Gas, with the trees right up next to Liberty Gas. Even though they might be able to air out that gas if a fire were to come, the town of Southampton needs to put a fire driveway next to all those buildings, in addition to possibly over by Jennifer's Path for a fire. The airport, I heard that somewhere international, there was an airport that had to shut down the airport for a certain amount of hours per day. It might have been a certain time of year because the solar panels were blinding the pilots. Has anyone talked to the airport? Why isn't the airport here saying good or bad for this project? Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, it appears that no one else wants to speak, so we have an executive session on personnel matters. So we'll be adjourning to downstairs to our executive session. Thank you for coming. And that's motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming.